Hey everyone, it's Heather Nichols, and I have a card to share with you today that's absolutely perfect for all of the cat lovers out there. I'll be using the Silhouettes cat die collection. I'll also be using the Whiskers stamp set, specifically the paw print trail that's a part of that set. I'll be using the Simple Strips Meow stamp set to do my sentiments, along with the coordinating Simple Strips die. I'll be using pixie spray along with stamping mask paper. I'll be doing some embossing, and so I'll use my VersaMark ink, white embossing powder, and a powder tool along with my heat embossing tool. I'll be adding a few spatters with a water brush, chocolate truffle liquid watercolor, and sugar cube ink refill. For ink, I'll be using Toffee, poppy seed, and honey, as well as sugar cube and Oreo. I'll be using my blender brushes, and then finally, I'll be using some foam squares. I'm using the Silhouettes Cats dies to create a stencil from a piece of cardstock. My cardstock happens to be Toffee here, but you can use whatever color cardstock you have on hand. I cut mine 5.5 by 5.5 so that I have plenty of space to spread my images out and it will fit on my card front. I'm arranging the cats onto the piece of cardstock and attaching them with a little bit of removable tape before I run them through my die cut machine. I will actually flip my piece of cardstock over so that I can make the cat shapes go in both directions on my stencil. While I have my die cut machine on my desk, I'm also cutting the cat shapes from some stamping mask paper. I'll cut the cat shapes going in both directions because I'm going to mask off the designs on my cardstock which are going in both directions. And all that means is I'm cutting the cats from one side of the masking paper and then flipping them over and cutting the cats again on the other side. And that will give me cat masks that are facing both directions for my project. I've sprayed pixie spray on the back side of my cardstock stencil, and then I'm going to layer it over another piece of Toffee cardstock for my card front. I picked poppy seed, honey, and toffee as the colors I'm using on my different cats on my stencil, and I'll use post-it notes to mask off the different areas as I color each of the cats using my blender brushes. While the stencil is still in place, I'm going to add spatters to these cats using some sugar cube ink refill and chocolate truffle liquid watercolor. I'll add a drop to an acrylic block of each of the colors, and then I'll use a water brush and pick up the color, and I'll tap that water brush over my finger to add the speckles and spatters to the cats. Now it's time to peel off that cardstock stencil to reveal the stenciled pattern underneath, and I think it turned out great. Next, we're going to stamp the paw print trail from the Whiskers stamp set across the design, but I want the paw prints to appear like they're behind the cats, and this is where the masks come into play. I'm going to take the masks and peel off that blue backing paper, and then I'm going to stick the masks to the different cat images on my stenciled design. Next, I'll take that paw print trail from the Whiskers stamp set, and I'm going to set that down where I want it to fall on my design. I'll close the lid of the MISTI to pick up the stamp, and I'm inking the stamp up with sugar cube ink, and then I'll close the lid of the MISTI to stamp the design onto my project. I'll repeat this process to stamp another paw print trail going in another direction on my background. Once all my stamping is done, I'll remove all of the masks from the cats to reveal that finished background design. For the sentiments on my project, I'm using the Simple Strips Meow stamp set. There are 18 sentiments on this set that you can stamp in one impression with your stamp, and then you'll be able to cut out all 18 sentiments with the coordinating Simple Strips die. I'm embossing in white on honey cardstock and poppy seed cardstock. For these two colors, I will condition the cardstock with my powder tool so that there's less static, and then I'll ink up my stamp with VersaMark ink and close the lid of the MISTI to stamp the sentiments onto my cardstock. And then I'll add white embossing powder and heat that powder with my heating tool until it's shiny. I'm also stamping a set of the Simple Strips Meow sentiments on sugar cube cardstock. I will place the sugar cube cardstock into the MISTI, ink up the stamp with Oreo ink, and close the lid of the MISTI to stamp the sentiments onto the cardstock. I'm cutting out my sentiments using the Simple Strips die. Line up the die with the stamped guideline squares on the impression. I'm taping it in place with some removable tape and then running it right through my die cut machine. I'll repeat this process for the other two colors. I'll add the cat background to a sugar cube card base, and then I picked 3 of the sentiments, one of each color, to use on my project. I'm adding foam squares that I've cut down to the back of the sentiment strips to add them to my card. To keep those foam squares from sticking where you don't want them to, like your scissors, cut them in half while they're still on the backing paper. I peeled the backing off of the foam and used a ruler to help me place the Simple Strip sentiments straight onto my project. I had so much fun creating with these cat products from Tailored Expressions that I even used some of these techniques to create a scrapbook layout of my 3 cats, Lily, Nina, and Hazel. I hope you all enjoyed the cat project that I had to share today, and you can find all of the supplies to create this project at the Tailored Expressions web store at tailoredexpressions.com. Thanks so much for joining me, everybody, and I'll see you next time.